Hello, children. Today I will tell you a story from Korea. In fact, a tale from Korea titled The Leather Bag, from a book known as Folk Tales and Fables of the World by Barbara Hayes and Robert Ingpen. The Leather Bag. The Korean Peninsula extends south from the land mass of Asia. To the east lies the Sea of Japan and Japan itself, while to the west, across the Yellow Sea, is China. Korea is a mountainous country of forest and scrub with agricultural land near the coast and in the river valleys. In the earlier days, when this story was set, agriculture was prosperous and rich men were able to employ many servants. Long ago, in the land of Korea, there lived an only son of rich parents. The boy loved listening to old tales and ancient fairy stories. Every evening when the boy went to bed, a servant would sit in his room and tell him another exciting legend. Many of the stories were of fierce dragons and tigers. Others were about bad fairies or the ferocious fox spirits, and some were about good fairies and lovely maidens and gallant heroes. Hanging on a hook on the boy's bedroom door was an old leather bag which had a tight drawstring round its neck. As the servant told the stories to the boy, the spirit from the story had to go into the bag and stay there. They could come out only when the boy told the same story to someone else. Unfortunately for the story spirits, the youngster was rather selfish. During the day, when the boy played with children of other families, they would say, "We know your servant tell wonderful stories. Please tell some of them to us." The boy would not. He kept all the tales to himself. As the years went by, the old leather bag, which hung on the hook on the door, became more and more crowded. The story spirits, good and bad, were squashed in together until there was hardly any room to move. They became angry, discontented, and also bored. The boy grew into a youth. Only one storyteller was left to him, a faithful old servant who knew every ancient tale in the land. Although the boy was now almost a man, the servant still told him a new story every evening. Then, yet another story spirit had to squeeze into the leather bag hanging on the hook on the bedroom door. "The room, we are squashed already," shouted the spirits in the bag. But no avail. Into the crowded darkness, the new story spirit had to go. Friends still asked the youth to tell them some of the many stories he knew, and still the selfish boy refused. The youth became a man. His parents died, and he had a kind uncle to watch over his affairs. As the young man was rich, The uncle had no difficulty in arranging a good marriage for him. All the preparations were made and the day arrived, when the young man was to set out in procession for the house of his bride. The old servant, who was the storyteller, was about to enter the bridegroom's bedroom when he heard angry voices. He stopped in the puzzlement because he thought the room was empty. Had thieves entered? He crept forward quietly to listen. "He is getting married today, you know," said one voice. "Yes," added another. "He is dressing up in grand clothes and going to a fine feast. But we are left in this crowded bag as usual." "It isn't good enough. We have been here for too long," barked the unmistakable sound of a fox spirit. "Let us kill this selfish young man, and when he is dead, we shall be released from his bag." "What a good idea! Yes, we will do that," agreed many other discontented story spirits. The old servant carefully pushed open the bedroom door and peeped in the leather bag, hanging on the hook. To his surprise, it was bulging and moving about as the story spirit shook their fists and talked in angry voices. The spirits of the good fairies and lovely maidens and gallant heroes said nothing. They were afraid of the other spirits. Fortunately for the selfish young man, the old servant loved him. He stood listening quietly as the story spirits went on with their plotting. "It's a long ride to the house of the bride," said the tiger spirit. "The young man will become hot and thirsty. The spirit of the water is a friend of mine. I shall ask him to lurk in a well at the roadside and place a handsome guard to float on the cool water. The young man will drink, then the spirit of the water can make him ill and choke him." "Wonderful!" laughed a fox spirit. "If by any chance that should fail, I will ask my friend, the fairy of the strawberries, to sit in a field at the side of the road. If the young man passes the well without drinking, he is sure to want to eat some ripe, sweet strawberries. My friend will jump down his throat with red berries and choke him." The leather bag swayed as the other spirits clapped and murmured approval. Next day, the squeaky voice of a bat spirit spoke. "I know something about weddings," he said. "I know that when a bridegroom dismounts in the courtyard of the house of the bride, a bag of rice husks is placed beneath his feet so that he may descend comfortably from his steed. I will arrange for a red hot poker to to be amongst the husks, so that the young man is burned." "Oh, very good," approved all other voices. Then a snake spirit hissed its contribution. "I will ask a cousin to hide under the mat in the bedroom of the bride," he said. "If everything else fails and the bridegroom joins the bride, my cousin will slip out from under the mat and bite him. That will be the end of all our problems." "Good, good," laughed the voices of the story spirits. Then there was silence and the bag became still. The old servant was horrified. He loved his master and wished no harm befall him. However, he knew if he told this tale of spirits in the leather bag, on the hook, on the bedroom door, no one would believe him. They would think that his mind had become unhinged. "I must save my master by cunning," thought the servant. He went to see the uncle and asked permission to lead the young man's horse on the procession to the house of the bride. "Of course not," replied the uncle. "You are too old. The journey would be too far for you." "Please, please," begged the old man. "I have cared for my master for so long. I should like to take him to his wedding. Then I will retire in peace." "Very well," sighed the uncle. "You may lead the horse." The wedding procession set out with the old servant holding the bridle of his young master's mount. The horse had a splendid saddle with tassels. The bridegroom wore magnificent clothes. There were attendants on foot. At the rear of the procession rode the uncle, also on a splendid horse which was led by a groom. Other servants carried a beautiful palanquin in which the bride would ride on the return journey. The sun had shone down, and after journeying for some distance, the bridegroom grew thirsty. At that very moment, he saw a cool well with a handsome gourd floating on the water. "Fetch me a drink," he ordered the servant. The old man gripped the horse's bridle and hurried onwards. "Now, young master," he said, "you must not stop for a drink. You know, drinking in the bright sun will make you sweat, and that will never do in your fine wedding clothes." The other servants were amazed to hear the old servant defying his master in such a fashion. But the procession went on. Next, they came to a field of strawberries. "I am still thirsty and hungry too now," said the bridegroom. "Fetch me some strawberries." "Now, master, you don't really want strawberries," said the old servant, hurrying ever forward. "You will only drop juice down your fine outfit. You know that your dear and lamented mother never allowed you to eat while you wore your best clothes?" The other attendants could scarcely believe their ears. They sent word back to the uncle that the mad old servant was refusing to obey his master. The uncle hurried forward. "What's going on?" he asked. "Is it true that this servant has refused to fetch a drink of water or any strawberries?" "Yes, yes," replied the bridegroom. "But let there be no fuss. He is a faithful old servant." "There will be no fuss now," fumed the uncle. "But after the wedding, he will have a good beating." So the old servant took his master safely past the first two traps set by the story spirits, and in due course the procession arrived at the house of the bride. A great feast had been prepared and a large tent set up to shelter the guests. In the courtyard, a sack of rice husks was placed at the side of the bridegroom's horse. As the young man dismounted, the old servant snatched the sack away. "Have you really gone mad, old friend?" asked the young man as he missed his footing and fell over. Again the uncle was furious and promised the servant a double beating as soon as the marriage ceremony was over. The servant said nothing. He had saved his master from the third hazard. The ceremony began. A cock and a hen, dressed in fine robes and tied to goblets of wine, were placed on an elegantly carved wooden table, and near the table was a lovely screen embroidered with dragons for good luck. The bridegroom stood to the east of the table. The bride, dressed in embroidered clothes and attended by two maidens, walked in from the west. The bride and the groom bowed to each other. The ceremony continued. Sips of wine were taken from the goblets to which the cock and hen were tied, and the formalities were complete. There was a great feasting and much talking and visiting together of relatives. At last, the time came for the bridegroom to retire with bride to her chamber. Here, where the last attempt would be made by the story spirits to kill the young man. The old servant followed the procession to the bride's chamber door then. To everyone's astonishment, he pushed forward, drew a sword from within his clothes, lifted the rug, and chopped to pieces the snake which lay beneath. Such fuss and commotion had never been seen in the household before. When the snake was dead, the old servant sighed with relief. All the plots to kill his young master had been foiled. He told the whole story of the spirits in the leather bag. The young man believed what he heard and repented his selfishness in keeping the story spirits squashed in the bag for so long. From now on, I will tell to others the stories I have enjoyed so much myself, he said. In the course of time, children were born to the young man and his bride. Every evening, the young man sat with them and told them stories. They thought they had the best father in the world. One by one, the story spirits were released to freedom, and no more grumbling nor evil plotting was heard. As for the old servant, he was not given a beating, but lived out his old age in a comfortable room next to the nursery. End of the story.